Get ready to amplify your light and shine bright because it's about to get real. Join Spencer Jones, the Prince of Positivity, and get energized with this episode of the Jonesin For Show. Let's go!
Hey, Energizer, welcome to another episode of the Jonesin For Show, the show that's here to help you live your life to the max and just be the best you can be, right? Let your light shine bright. And today we have a special guest joining us to share his wisdom, his knowledge with all of us so that we could shine even brighter, or even better. A better way to say that is to let our true light shine. So I'm really excited to bring him on. We just met a little bit ago through a mutual friend, so I'm getting to know him as well, and I was checking out all the amazing things he has done. So let me just recap a little bit here, and then we can go into some fun details. But he was a lawyer for 22 years doing business and commercial trials and all that stuff. But what's cool is he's taken that experience. We won't hold anything against him because he's a lawyer, right? We need lawyers. It's all good. But he took his experience there and then transitioned it into helping leaders, right? To do problem solve, peacemaking, do arbitration, mediation, all those things, so that he's helping bring peace in the world, and especially in the corporate world. But he's also worked with prisons and groups like that to help them be at their best, so they're shining as bright as they can. But that's a very quick glance at his bio. Let's not dig into that. Let's hear from him and get to know this amazing person even more. So please help me welcome Doug Noll to the podcast. Doug, thank you for being here.
Spencer, thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it is an honor to have you, and I'm just super excited to get to know you more and hear all the amazing things you've done. We connected beforehand how we both love winter sports. He has been skiing and is a level 3 ski instructor, if I remember correctly, for 65 years, and I said that just slightly beats out my 4 seasons of snowboarding, but that's a beautiful thing. So Doug, tell us about you, what you've done, and some, I don't know, highlights of who is Doug.
Well, my story started out a little rough. I grew up, I'm a native Californian, and I grew up in affluence in Southern California, but I was born with a lot of physical disabilities. But I was born with a good mind. So I struggled emotionally through childhood and my teenage years. But eventually, I was accepted to Dartmouth College, and so I went to Dartmouth and came back. And in those days, if you didn't go to med school out of an Ivy League, you went to law school. So I went to law school, kind of by default, and ultimately moved to Central California because I love the mountains, and I was a lawyer here in Central California for 22 years, as you said, trying very large, complex financial and commercial cases, on both sides, plaintiffs and defendants. And along the way, I picked up the martial arts. Became a secondary black belt around my 40th birthday, and then started studying Tai Chi. And Tai Chi has 2 really interesting paradoxes. The first is the softer you are, the stronger you are. And the second paradox is the more vulnerable you are, the more powerful you are. Soft to be strong, vulnerable to be powerful. Completely against everything that I thought I knew about life and being a lawyer, a martial artist, everything, right? But it turns out these paradoxes are true. And as a result of studying Tai Chi and ultimately becoming a Tai Chi master, I was in a courtroom one day and the thought came to me, what the heck am I doing in here? And that's when I made the shift. I had a long vacation planned after that. During that vacation, I recognized that I'd only served 5 people in 22 years. I mean, people that I thought were really benefited from the court system.
Right.
And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. So after that vacation, I came home and learned about a new master's degree program in peacemaking and conflict studies being offered at Fresno Pacific University. And I enrolled. And so in my late 40s, I was a full-time master's degree student, a 3/4 time law professor, and a full-time trial lawyer.
Wow.
That was the end of my first marriage.
I was going to say, that's a full plate right there. I mean, that's hard to have those relationships.
Pretty crazy. Wow. Ultimately, I couldn't come to agreement with my partners about what I wanted to do with my practice. And so I gave a week's notice and walked out and left $10 million on the table and just walked away and started my own peacemaking and neutral services business in November of 2000. And that's how it all started. It was the best decision I ever made. I don't make nearly as much money as I used to make when I was younger, but I don't care. I served more people in a week than I served in 22 years as a trial lawyer. And to me, the meaning in my life is service to others. And I have developed a really unique set of skills that will allow you to calm any angry person in 90 seconds or less. You can stop fights and arguments forever. You can build instant intimacy, instant trust, instant loyalty. If you're a leader, you can almost immediately become a leader that everyone wants to follow, because I've learned about the power of emotions. And today, that's what I do. I teach people about the power of emotions and how to master emotions and how to listen to emotions.
I can't wait to dig into that. First of all, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. And I know our Energizers would love to learn how they can not only calm themselves, but calm others, because arguments happen. There's disagreements that happen. But before we even get into there, let's just touch back on a couple of things that you said. And so you spent 22 years as a lawyer, and upon reflection, you feel that you've only truly served 5 people. And that's amazing that you're able to serve 5 people. On 2 sides, you go like, wow, I served 5 people, but also, oh, I missed out on so many other people that I could have served. And that seems to be the mindset and focus you had on it. And like, well, something needs to change. I want to serve more people, help more people with it. So you discovered the peacemaking course, enrolled in that, and learned and grew, albeit to an end of a marriage, sadly. I would assume sadly, at least. But you're learning all that. And okay, now where am I going here and going forward, to the point where, okay, you quit being a lawyer, or with that firm at least, and started your own practice and own company, helping people create that peace and leadership, which is amazing. But there's some bigger comment I want to touch on, is the fact that you left $10 million on the table. That money's great, money's nice, and you had that when you're younger, but that doesn't necessarily bring fulfillment. A lot of the time, the majority of the time, money doesn't bring that true fulfillment that fills us. And so now you make less than you did, but you feel more fulfilled. You're serving more people. You're in alignment with your purpose, your priorities, your vision, as opposed to for 22 years, maybe it was in alignment at first, but then things started to shift over time and you realize, oh, I'm out of alignment. And once you got back in, you felt happier, you're more fulfilled, you're more joyful, even though the paycheck is different. Did I kind of read that correctly?
That's right. And young people come to me I'm 72 years old. People come to me for advice, and I say, chase your passion, not your money. Yeah, we need to pay the bills, and in the beginning, you got to work and get a paycheck. But if you really want to have a happy, satisfying life, it's really about finding a passion, something you're really passionate about, and following that. The money will follow.
I love it.
And that's really the secret. I can't tell you how many centimillionaires and billionaires that are out there that have just extraordinary wealth, and they're extraordinarily miserable human beings and unhappy. Money just is not the key to happiness. I think there's a study that shows that any amount of money you're making over $78,000 a year, it does not give you incremental happiness. Once your basic needs are met, then money is not going to make you that much happier. And yet, how many people do we know who spend their whole lives to become financially successful, and they've never learned how to be happy? They've never learned how to relate to their children or to their spouses or to their friends. They're totally career focused. And at the end, their lives are meaningless and they die early.
I can imagine I've seen it with a couple of people of my friends, and just with the lives you have seen and touched and been with, that you've seen that more. I mean, I don't know in a sense of millionaires off the top of my head, at least, but I've heard that, that the more money you get, especially people who are chasing it, that they're not happy, they're unhappy, they're not enjoying life, they keep pursuing it. And no matter what that level of income is, as long as your basic needs are met, first of all, let's set that as a baseline, get your basic needs met. After that, it's doing the things you love, filling your heart with joy, chasing your passions, which is one thing I'm big on: kayak fishing, snowboarding, things like that. Right. And doing those things with the people you love, as opposed to, oh, I just need a paycheck. Oh, I need a bigger house. Oh, I need a new car.
Right. None of that matters. I chased all that stuff. I chased all that stuff in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I learned that I had the big house, and I had the fancy car, and we took the big vacations and all that stuff. It doesn't really add anything to you.
Mhm.
Today, I live on 10 acres with a very modest home, and it's gorgeous here. I mean, it's beautiful. When people come here, they just shake their head and said, "How this place is amazing."
Mhm.
It's not big. It's not big and expensive, but it's in a beautiful place, and that's the value. So, and the other thing is, I think that people accumulate, or they try to accumulate financial success to fill a void inside themselves. They've got emptiness, and they're trying to fill that emptiness with things. And it's a bottomless pit. If you try to fill it with things, what you have to learn how to do is love yourself. And
Uh,
that's when you learn how to fill that hole. That hole is filled with love from within yourself. And once you have that hole filled, then you can love other people, and your life changes forever. It took me a long time to learn that lesson.
you're speaking right to me, because that's exactly what I went through. I had that bottomless void, that bottomless pit that I tried everything to fill, whether it was chasing more money, notoriety, acclaim, whatever it was, many things, just to try chasing different passions and businesses, just to see what I could do to fill that void, because I felt empty inside. And those choices and all that led me to make different choices in my life that, well, frankly, just it all leads to one thing, right? It led me to hit my rock bottom, where I felt like committing suicide, where I felt like ending it all and not being here. Well, from that rock bottom, obviously, I didn't commit suicide. I had a loving wife and a handful, as in 2 or 3 friends who were there to support me through that. Saw a therapist, learned a group, and I realized I hated myself. I did not love who I was. I did not like me for many, many reasons. And then I had to start building from that, dismantling those belief systems, dismantling the ideas and perception of who I was, until in fact I learned to love me for me. And that took, even after that, it wasn't an instant thing. I had some of the tools in place because I was doing personal growth, but it wasn't hitting deep enough until until rock bottom. Then I started building the framework. But still, it was 2 years after that I finally could look myself in the mirror and say, Spencer, I love you the way
Right.
you are, and mean it. And
Right.
that was life changing for me. And so, how do you help people learn that about themselves, and how
Yeah.
to realize that? And how do you do that?
I teach them how to listen to emotions. And by teaching them, what I teach people to do is how to serve other people by listening other people into existence. And when they learn how to listen to other people's emotions and reflect those emotions back and watch the amazing transformative effect that happens on the speaker, they begin to see that, wow, I'm really here having an impact on this human being. And they literally reprogram their own brains. And when you can learn how to listen to somebody else's emotions, you start learning how to listen to your own emotions. And you start accepting your whole emotional experience for what it is. It's who we are. We're human. I mean, humans are 98% emotional and only 2% rational. So once we learn these skills, everything transforms. People's behaviors are no longer confusing or chaotic. When somebody's upset or angry, they're not irrational, they're just emotional. And you know how to deal with it. It's easy. And life becomes really effortless in all your relationships, because you know exactly what to say, how to say it, and when to say it, no matter what the situation is. And I've taught this to people that are serving life sentences in maximum security prisons, and I've taught it to senior analysts at the Congressional Budget Office as they were learning how to de-escalate members of Congress and staff. And anybody can learn this stuff, and it's absolutely transformative.
So I'm thinking of, okay, reflecting someone's emotions back to them, or understanding that. I'm thinking, okay, I'm face to face with someone who's mad, upset, angry, or for something, and they're talking to me about it. I'm assuming I don't get mad and angry back at them.
No,
How do I reflect on what does that look like?
let me show you what it looks like. I want you to think of a story that has a little bit of emotion in it, and you're going to start telling me the story, and I'm going to listen to and reflect your emotions. And everybody who's listening and watching can see exactly how this is done. And then I'll explain that it's a 3-step process, and I'll explain what I did. But let's do a demo first, that way, because the picture's worth 1,000 words. And you will be, I won't say any more. Just give me a story, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So context of the story real quick. It's I was in college living on my own with my soon-to-be brother-in-law, and my mom came to visit me. My mom judged me with a lot of shame and guilt. So she came to the house. My brother-in-laws were over there, and they had friends over, and she was wanting me to give her back these milk bottles. And the milk bottles, for whatever reason, was really important to her, for whatever reason, that she had them back, but I didn't give them back to her in her time. And so she was getting angry and frustrated, yelling at me in front of
So
my.
you were frustrated, but you also felt embarrassed and humiliated in front of all your friends.
Exactly, because I'm trying to make good friends and family.
It began to piss you off because your mother was disrespecting you and insulting you, and was not appreciating and supporting you in any way. It was all about her and her needs, and you felt sad too, and because you want to be connected to your mother, and here she was breaking the connection, and so there was a lot of upset and distress and sadness and grief, and in that moment you felt completely abandoned by her. You felt all alone and completely unlovable and unworthy, and it was just a really difficult experience for you.
Yeah, I'm out of words for that, and I'm not sure I would have been able to even express the sadness at that time. The other emotions, I probably could say, yes, I'm feeling that. Sadness, I don't know if I would have been able to express, but upon reflection, yeah, definitely. That's
okay. Anything
incredible.
else? Anything else about that? And we'll talk about what happened.
No, she threw the glass at me, or the glass jars, because it apparently didn't matter at that point anymore, and stormed out in a huff and all angry and pissed off at me and the world and all that. And
you
that was
felt, yeah, you felt completely rejected by her, rejected, abandoned, and also at the same time feeling insulted and disrespected over what was really a trivial matter, and confused, really confused about why this all happened.
right. And that was one of many instances similar to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did it feel for me to listen to you in this way?
I'll be honest, I felt seen and heard and felt, and I've only felt that way, if I'm totally openly honest, probably 3 times in my life that I have felt that. And this is through Zoom. Oh, wait, we're doing the Zoom virtually. He just heard the story, and I'm going, you can't see this, but my mouth almost just dropped to the floor, like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I was feeling and thinking. And yeah, it felt good. I felt seen, heard, and felt.
That's right. And that's the experience of listening another person into existence. I just listened you into existence. And your experience is no different than almost everybody else who've almost never been heard or listened to in a deep, deep empathic way. So I teach people how to do what I just did for you. And they also learn how to do it for themselves, so that when they get angry or upset, they can just, it's called affect labeling, and they basically label their own emotions and calm down. It's all based on neuroscience. This is all based on brain scanning studies back in 2007. It shows what happens when you listen to and reflect somebody else's emotions. And to me, it's the foundational skill of life. When you master this skill, and it doesn't take long to master it, when you master this skill, everything changes. Because every single person you meet, whether it's somebody you know or a perfect stranger, you validate them so they feel deeply heard, and they become instantly loyal. And if you do this in an intimate relationship, you build deep intimacy and trust, and you create emotional safety, which most people do not experience emotional safety in their lives.
How many times are we trying to fill that void, thinking we want that emotional safety, but we're filling it with all these different things, other relationships, drugs, whatever, just to try to get that feeling.
Yeah, addictive behaviors, whether it's drugs or alcohol or sports or working out or whatever, TV or whatever it might be. This is the secret to life. This is the secret to happiness, is knowing how to do this. So,
just to not confirm, but to share one side of it, the first person who have ever, not even my wife at first, made me feel this way was another person who's a good friend of mine now. But the reason for the story is he's the first one who made me feel like that. And this was 2 years ago that happened. And we're still good friends. Like it created a deep friendship between the two of us. Because at first I was blown away, like I was with you as well at that moment. And I was in a darker place at that time in my life. And it helped me heal and grow. And that was, we chatted over that weekend. It was at a men's retreat. And then we, stayed apart. But then we started chatting a little bit more, saw each other again at another men's retreat. And that just, then the friendship really got tighter and deeper. And it was so amazing because we started having those types of conversations. And you're right, when you feel that way, you create those really strong bonds with the other person.
That's right. That's right. So here's how you do it. 3-step process.
All right. I'm getting my notes out. I'm taking notes here, folks. I hope you're taking notes as well, because this is life-changing.
Yeah. So the first thing you have to learn how to do is ignore the words. I'm going to make an assumption. We weren't dealing with your anger. You were dealing with the rejection of your mother, which is really traumatic. But as a general proposition, if you're dealing with an angry person and you're going to calm them down, you've got to ignore their angry words. You've heard it before. There's nothing new here. If you listen to the words, you're likely to get triggered and get emotional yourself and revert to your childhood programming. And that's when conflict escalates. So to prevent that from happening, do not pay attention to the meaning of the words. Just ignore them. You're not ignoring the person. You're just ignoring what they're saying. Step number 2, put your mind into idle, neutral, quiet your mind just for a moment and just be present with this other person. And within a second or two, emotions will start flowing into your consciousness. You will automatically start detecting what emotions this other person is experiencing. And I'll explain how to structure that information in a moment. So that's called reading the emotional data field. Emotions are data, just like numbers on a spreadsheet. And we just have to learn how to pay attention to them, and we can read them effortlessly and efficiently. Our brains are hardwired for this over many millions of years of evolution. Then the last step is to reflect the emotion that the speaker is experiencing with a you statement, no I statements. Forget all that active listening crap. It doesn't work. It has never worked. It never will work. Same thing with NVC, nonviolent communication, or compassion communication. Does not work in these situations. And you just got to ignore all that stuff. It doesn't work. It's a simple you statement. You are. And then you label the emotion. You are angry. You're frustrated. You're whatever. And you continue labeling the emotions for 90 seconds or until you get exactly what I got from you. A nodding of the head and exactly a sigh of relief and a dropping of the shoulder. Those are the 4 involuntary relaxation responses that indicate that the speaker feels deeply heard. And then you're basically done. Now, the trick here is understanding emotions. And most people don't have a good vocabulary of emotions. I mean, they know what emotional words are, but they're not really linked up to experience. So emotions are what we call unstructured data. And our brains don't do well with unstructured data. It's very hard to process unstructured data. So I teach people how to structure emotional data. And we're going to think of emotions as coming in layers. No one emotion is all by itself. There are 6 basic layers. And the top layer is anger. The next layer is disrespect. The next layer is fear. The 4th layer, shame, humiliation. The 5th layer is sadness emotions. And the 6th layer are abandonment emotions. So in the first layer, the anger emotions, the common emotions you're going to see that people expressing are anger, rage, annoyance, irritation, and frustration. Those are the most common. In the disrespect layer, you're going to see insult, disrespect, ignored, not heard, feeling unsupported, unappreciated, maybe feeling treated unfairly, stuff like that. The 3rd layer are the fear emotions, which is going to be anxiety, fear, scared, terrified, generally speaking. You could use words, a little softer words like concerned or worried. Those words work well too. Then in the next layer, shame, humiliation, guilt, and embarrassment. And then in the sadness layer, you're going to have sadness, depression, upset, distress, grief. There are different intensities. The words all have different mean and have different intensities. And the last layer is the root of everything, which is feeling abandoned, unloved, and unlovable. Those are all the words you need to do this work. You really don't need a much bigger vocabulary than that. You just need to understand that they come in these layers. And so the way you start is you started off with your story, and your mother was really angry at you. So, I thought, okay, so I just listened and felt into it, and you were surprised and sad and anxious and embarrassed because this was happening in front of your friends. I think I started with embarrassment or humiliation, and that pissed you off. You felt completely unheard and disrespected by your mother. And then I felt the real grief. Oh, he's sad, really grief-stricken because his mother has abandoned him, rejected him, and basically treated him as being an unlovable being. And then I felt the anxiety that came up around that, the concerns you had about that. And then I felt the confusion. Why is she doing this to me? And she stomps out the door, and you're confused, and it goes back to sadness and grief and shame and humiliation. And so basically the emotions follow the story. Right, and I just start with whatever layer where the story starts, and I just move from layer to layer to layer as the story continues. And all I do is just reflect emotions. I don't comment on anything. I don't agree, disagree. I don't try to problem solve. I don't try to fix anything. I don't try to rationalize, justify, excuse, or appease. All I do is reflect. And in about 90 seconds, the person will be calm again. And if you're doing it in a situation like you and I did, where you had this traumatic experience with your mother, you feel a sense of inner peace and calm inside yourself. And that's when we're complete on this story. And it takes about 90 seconds.
Hey, are you ready to crush it, to go after your dreams and goals and live your life to the max? Well, of course you are. That's why you're here listening or watching to the Jonesin For Show, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. But sometimes we still get stuck, right? These podcasts, this show is great, but that's not everything sometimes. Sometimes we need a little more. And you know what? I get that. What helps me and what has helped me and continues is a community. And surrounding myself with people who are amazing, who are like-minded, like me, going after goals, achieving big things, and pushing themselves and others to be their best. Wouldn't it feel amazing to be surrounded by a community like that? To be surrounded by people who are like you, who have big goals and dreams, and they're going for them. Not only are they going for their goals, they're helping and encouraging you to go after yours. Well, if that sounds interesting, if that sounds fun, if that sounds like a community you would love to be part of, well then come check out Spencer's Energy Hub. That's right, I have our membership community, well I should say we have a membership community that's here for you. I say we because we are the Energizers, just like you. We energize each other to be our best. We have monthly rock star interviews, right, where we interview masters in their field. We have weekly trainings. We meditate every week as a community, and you can hop and join us. You get special access to me along with an incredible community of people. So if you are ready to level up, if you are ready to be a rock star and crush your goals while being surrounded by an incredible and amazing community, check out Spencer's Energy Hub. All you have to do is go to spencersenergyhub.com and check it out. Or if you want, just head over to my website, www.spencermjones.com, and check out the hub. We would love to have you inside. All right, back to your show.
About 90 seconds.
That's, first of all, amazing. Mind-blowing is probably the better term for that for me, because I'm just going, holy cow, I could see so many arguments or disagreements I've had in my past that would have been dissipated, not even happened, not even been a thing with this, and how much healthier a lot of my relationships would have been had I known this, or they had known this, and we worked through it. But a question comes to my mind, and I'm thinking of, okay, let's say I've learned this, I've worked at it, and I'm reflecting back someone's emotions, but they seem to get triggered by it when they're reflecting their stories back to me, or they're really angry at me because, let's say, I I lied to them or whatever, or unintentionally I made a mistake and they're really mad at me. And so I can reflect back the emotions and say that, but that's just triggering them to seem to get more upset. I don't know if that ever happens. Does that ever happen? No, it doesn't. Holy. Okay, mine's blown. I'm sick of barking
I
at
was
you.
interrupting you. I was interrupting you about every 5 seconds. Did you feel like I was interrupting you?
No, I felt like I should pause to let you talk.
Uh-huh. That's the way it is. Here's what's going on. We have rules for conversations, but in this practice, we are not having a conversation. I'm listening, and listening has different rules than the rules we learned as kids for conversation. Listening has its own set of rules. As long as you use a you statement and you're really authentically trying to listen to the emotions of the speaker, you will almost never get pushback. The only time you're going to get pushback is when you're not graceful with it.
Gotcha.
And my students will sometimes report that they get pushback from somebody, and I just said you just weren't graceful. You weren't subtle enough. And the way you deal with that is just let it go for a few minutes, stop, and then come back 10 minutes later and very subtly affect label with just one emotion. The affect labeling works. You know you're really successful and the other person doesn't even know what you're doing. All they know is they feel deeply heard. It takes some practice to get there, but not a lot. I mean, I can teach most people how to do this in 4 to 6 weeks of practice.
Wow. That's incredible. And I can imagine the people from your clients and from you and from your clients who have now felt seen, heard, and felt. I mean, it's just a spider web of people out in the world who are calmer, happier, have a deeper connection with one another. And I think that's incredible. So let me ask you this question. Okay, I think back on situations in my past, or I'm experiencing an emotion right now, and I practice meditation. I feel like I'm fairly decent at it, and I can calm my mind, and I can stop and reflect and review emotions and choose to experience them to some degree. It's always a question most times I can, but not always, right? Have you ever used this practice on yourself when you are experiencing that emotion? Then you could say, okay, let's pause, step back, and reflect them back to me. Is
Yes.
that possible?
That's called self-affect labeling.
Okay.
And it's extremely effective. It's the only thing that works really in calming yourself down almost instantly. All you have to do is label your own emotions. So I might say, man, I'm really pissed. I'll say it silently. And I'll say, I'm pissed off. I feel completely disrespected and insulted by this person. They're not listening to me. They're ignoring me. I'm investing all this time and effort and they're just blowing me off and it's pissing me off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little sad because I have this beautiful gift to give and they're just not receptive to receiving it. And I feel abandoned and rejected. And all of a sudden I'm good.
Right. I can see, I'm trying to envision myself doing that. And I think I have at points where like, oh, I want to say these things and they're cutting me off. And for me, that almost ramps me up even more. So like, oh, why aren't they listening to me? I have these things that to be important. But the important thing is then you stopped and said, but you are feeling this. And then you went on to the next one. You took that a quick breath and then you went to another aspect, which then disarmed. It sounded like it would disarm me, right? If I was going through that, it wouldn't just build me up. I'm like, oh, and now there's this. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
And notice that I used I statements.
So then you use I statements.
Here's the secret. I statements for yourself, you statements for the other person. This is exactly the opposite of what active listening teaches.
I was going to say, I was a teacher, middle school, high school choir director for 9 years. We got beaten into us, right? Of active listening, of all of those things you said at first, like, nope, that stuff doesn't work. I'm like, well, there goes like 9+ years of training down the tubes.
If it did work, I wouldn't be here.
Right?
It just doesn't work. It's based on the work of Thomas Gordon, who was a mentor. Yeah, it's in Madison, University of Wisconsin, Madison, with Carl Rogers. And he developed this concept of listening that he called active listening. And his work was completely misinterpreted by the human potential movement of the late 50s and early 60s. And then it got into the therapy people, and then it got into the mediation people, and this very perverted, passive voice, what I think you're saying or what I think you're feeling is X. Total bullshit. Doesn't work.
Hmm.
And I can tell you it doesn't work because before I discovered affect labeling, that's what I had. That's all I had. And all it did is make my conflicts that I was mediating get even more intense. And that's why, you know, I had the epiphany. Don't use an I statement, use a you statement. And don't reflect words, reflect emotions.
I think that's the two big takeaways with this. I mean, there's a lot of takeaways, but two little yet big ones is one, it's a you statement, which a lot of people could be almost like, well, you're feeling this, you're doing this, but you're not saying that. You're feeling or you felt this, and you're sharing an emotion, something along those lines that they could disagree with if they wanted to, I suppose. I would imagine they don't usually because it hits home. But the fact that you're sharing an emotion as opposed to the words they say back. The first thing you said, take the words out of it. Don't listen to the words. Listen, you're listening to the emotion behind the words and what's driving that force. And that's what you share. So you share that emotion. So that when I think, oh, it's a you statement, I'm, all my years of active listening, I think you statements, oh, I'm gonna be berated by that person or berate them. And now I go, oh, well, no, I'm just sharing the deeper sense to it of, oh, this is the emotion that's
right. You're not
feeling everything.
When you're affect labeling, you're not judging or criticizing or condemning anybody. You're just saying this is what you're feeling. I'm just reflecting back to you what you're experiencing. And it's what's going on biophysiologically is I'm lending you my prefrontal cortex for the time it takes your prefrontal cortex to get back online, which is about 90 seconds. And all I'm doing is just reflecting what you're experiencing with no judgment.
Right.
It's just whatever it is. You're just being emotional in the moment. The way I like to analogize is, imagine holding a little baby, an infant, and the infant poops in the diapers, and you smell it. Oh, baby, ooh, you just pooped. Are you going to go throw the baby in the trash can? Right. Criticize the baby for pooping? Heck no. You go, oh, baby, you pooping. Let me clean you up and give you fresh diapers and give you some milk to drink and get you fed and put you to sleep so you feel good. That's compassion. Mm. And when you're affect labeling, that's the attitude that you're going to have automatically. You're just going to feel, oh, you're just emotionally pooping out there. Let me help you clean it up. And I'm just going to help you clean it up and make you feel better.
That's
simple.
Yeah. And I mean, as you said, it's not a huge vocabulary of stuff you need for that. It's those 6 layers, 1, 2, 3, 6 layers. Make sure I had that right.
Maybe 4 or 5 words in each layer, and that's it. 24 words.
That's incredible. So talk to me about, now I'm just curious here. And so tell me about your classes or how you teach us. You said you could teach us to 4 to 6 weeks. Do you usually do it one-on-one or as a group? I mean,
do it in all kinds of ways. For example, tomorrow, I'm starting a training with the Canadian Veterans Administration Ombuds Office. And these are 20 or 30 people who are sort of the office of last resort. When a Canadian veteran has a problem with Veterans Administration, they can't get the problem solved, they go to the ombuds, and the ombuds people are there to help them. And I'm going to teach them how to de-escalate, which they're very angry clients.
Right.
So we're going to do that virtually over Zoom for 2 hours, and then have a 1 hour follow-up each week. I found that if I'm doing workshops, whether I do them in person or virtual, this has got to be a 5 to 6 week process. Like I said, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to do this. So the once a week hour follow-up for accountability and support becomes really important. I'm going down to the desert about 4 hours from here in April. I'm going to be teaching 30 middle school. No, this is a primary school. I'm going to be teaching 30 elementary school teachers how to calm angry students and angry parents. That's going to be a 4-hour class followed with 4 hours of teaching. I've got online courses that people can take, and I sent you the link, dougnoll.co/Spencer-Jones. And on that link, it's a page just for your audience. Nobody else will ever see this page. There are links to my book, free ebook, and 2 of my courses. One's a de-escalation course, and the other one is the emotional competency course. So people can learn online. I also do group coaching. I have a group coaching class on the 1st and 3rd Saturdays of every month where people learn how to do that. And I do individual coaching. That is very expensive, as you might imagine. But I do work with people, high net worth people who want to learn this and they want individualized attention. And I'm happy to help them and coach. And we just, in those situations, typically they're very busy. So it's just an hour a week or 2 hours a week, 2 different sessions. And I'm basically taking them through the process, and we're just doing a lot of practicing. And then I give them homework assignments to go out and practice on their own. That work starts at about $25,000, so it's pretty pricey.
Okay.
But everybody learns, everybody gets it. And I've worked, with tens of thousands of people.
I love the different setups that you have for this to make it available to everyone and anyone. What the different styles you learn, whether it's in person, online, through groups, through online courses, whatever it is, one-on-one. That's amazing that you offer that. And I'm thinking of ways, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have a academy, a Jonesin For Academy, which is a personal growth academy that's all online, and we help people through all areas of personal growth. Potentially, it'd be great to have you share something. Maybe we have a training or something like that from you in there, or something along those lines. But what I think would be a lot of fun, and we'll talk about the details of this afterwards. So everyone listening to this podcast, stay tuned, message me and all that stuff. But maybe what we could do is to do like what you're doing with, you said the Canadian government, right? You're working with them, something like that, where you do something for our Energizer family as a community. We bring in a whole bunch of people via Zoom, and bring you in as that expert and lead us through a 5-6 week program to help all of us, and we can reach all of our Energizer family, because we have people in New Zealand and Australia, UK, right, all over.
Absolutely. That's how I work.
Love it.
Just figuring out, how long a initial session do people want to spend. More is better. Less is not. Right. The minimum is 2 hours. Right. But 4 hours is better. But that's that's a big time commitment. And then once a week for 4 weeks for an hour.
Let's dance around, see what we can figure out here, and chat. We'll chat after the show. But if you're listening to this, be on the lookout. My hope would be we could put something together for late spring, early summer of 2022. And if it's 2023, I'm sorry, it's 23 already. Oh my gosh. Late spring, early summer of 2023. And if you're listening to this after the fact, don't fear, just reach out to me, and check it out. Also, check out the resources Doug shared. So it's dougnoll.co/Spencer-Jones. You can also go to our show notes and get the show notes for this show and that link and all that good stuff. And that's spencermjones.com/Jonesin For Show. You just click this podcast and you get all those show notes. Doug, this has been truly amazing and transforming. We're working together one way or another, whether I'm taking one of your courses or one-on-one, or we're doing a group thing, because that, I'll be honest, my friend Brian Bogert, who is become my brother, because of that experience of him making me feel seen, heard, and felt, was the initial part. And he's just an amazing human being that I feel that connection. I've been wondering and saying, how does he have that insight? How does he do that? And now to have the chance to learn, maybe he learned it, or maybe it's just intuitive for him, I don't know, but to learn how to do this so that I personally can help other people, as we lead our positivity movement, Energizer movement around the world, to have this tool in our tool belt, life-changing and movement changing. So I can't wait to continue to work with you and grow this. This has been amazing. So let me ask you one final question, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
As we wrap up the show, if you could give one piece of advice to help people live their lives to the max, what would that be?
I would say have the courage to follow your passion. And if you really want to serve others, learn how to listen people around you into existence. Give them a priceless gift that they've never received before, and throw a pebble into the pond of peace and watch the ripples spread out around you. And it will change your life forever.
I love it. I'm just soaking it all in, and that's amazing. Thank you, Doug, for your time, your expertise, your wisdom, and giving us all of these amazing tools already free of charge for the podcast. It is such an honor, and I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How can people, is the best way for people to connect with you through that website that you shared?
Yeah, my email address is doug@dougnoll.com, not co, DOUGNOLL.com. And I'm a sole practitioner. I don't have any assistants. I don't have any firewalls. Like that. If you send me an email, you will get a response from me. And I'm on all the usual social media stuff, but I don't hang out there. I post, but I don't hang out. So just email me if you want to. Email is really the best way to reach me.
Perfect.
And also, Yeah, you can email me through the website too. So dougnoll.com.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And Energizers, please take them up on that offer. Please go check out that page, dougnoll.co/Spencer-Jones. Again, that'll be in our show notes. And check out the courses, check out things, and be on the lookout, because I guarantee we're going to make something happen for our Energizer family here in 2023 to work with Doug and have us all learn how we can really affect label and help ourselves and help the people we love in this world. So amazing. Thank you, Doug, for being you and shining your light with all of us is truly a gift and an honor. And to all Energizers, keep being you, keep shining your light with the rest of the world, because you are amazing, worthy, and enough just the way you are. So with that, keep shining, and we'll catch you later.